From the heart of the land of the Guardians, where the dog pound roars, the Cavs soar, and heartbreak is just part of the game, this is 3 and Out, Cleveland Sports Talk. With Jason, Drew, and Michael, 3 diehard fans breaking down the highs, the lows, and everything in between. No fluff, no filters, just Cleveland sports the way it's meant to be. Now let's get into it. Here's your hosts, Michael, Jason, and Drew.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is 3 and Out, back again, once again, operating as second and long. And at this point, I'm beginning to think it's a long shot for Mike to join us. But eventually, I swear, I don't know. That guy up there that says sometimes. I'm about to change it to hardly ever.
Mike.
Maybe someday, wish upon a star.
We're doing a mic check.
Yeah. Mike, are you out there? Hello, Mike. Send us an SOS if you need help.
Nothing.
Nothing. He swears he'll be back.
All right.
And hopefully, so will the Browns.
Yeah.
Someday we'll actually have a team that we can be a little more encouraged about and a little more excited about. But at least in the realm of Cleveland sports, we're not relegated. We were just talking the other day about just the Browns. We've got Guardians offseason talk. We've got Buckeyes being dominant. We've got Cavs rolling in. So there's other stuff to talk about. So we don't have to just lament the Browns, but
we will lament the Browns.
We will lament the Browns. Yeah,
Yes.
that will come very quickly.
Yes.
But before we get started, anything?
No. Good week. This fall that we're having is awful summer-like.
Yeah, it's 85 and sunny in October in Ohio.
So yeah,
figure that one out. Although tomorrow, back down to the 60s.
Yeah.
So
the fall will be here tomorrow. Maybe.
Fall will officially arrive.
Yes.
And so will my leaves, and then I'll be mowing very frequently. Unless you want to.
No. I got my own. No.
Worth a shot. So,
No.
Well, let's get started. We're going to talk first off with Browns.
So
we, other than the Cardinals, we Browns the most this week.
Yeah, the Browns did Browns. And it's funny that, even in the period where we were leading the Vikings yesterday, my wife made a comment to me. She says, "Don't worry, they're going to Browns it up." And
so
and I just nodded, yeah,
it's
and
it's her fault.
And on a commercial break, the wheels are turning. What could they do to screw this up? 3 minutes and some change left, and we get the ball. I think we were on our 41-yard line with 3 and change left,
and we wasted 11 seconds of offense.
Yeah, 3 and out. And 3 and out.
We made an appearance yesterday.
The Browns gave us a dose of our podcast and gave us a 3 and out at a critical time.
We're much more entertaining than the Browns right now, though. So watch our 3 and out, not their 3 and out.
And then we give them the ball with 80 yards in 3 minutes and a backup quarterback and a
backup line
against the number 1 defense in the league, and we just need a stop.
Mm-hmm.
Or worst case, I'm thinking, okay, let's a field goal attempt at the end of the game. We were sitting there with 2 timeouts, 3 minutes, and I thought there's probably a time when we're going to talk about this again, but I thought the end of the game was sorely mismanaged. I don't even know if that touches on. I thought he mismanaged the use of those timeouts.
It was stuffed up.
Yeah, it was definitely stuffed up. And I'm sure there's an argument for why he used the timeouts. My thought process is, you're playing against a backup quarterback who hasn't had all the reps through the preseason. J.J. McCarthy was the guy. He was young. He was getting all the reps. And Carson Wentz, being the veteran, his knowledge of the playbook wasn't as great. That's the guy you want to force to play fast. And what did we do? They got into the red zone or deep into our territory, and we slowed the game down for them. Mm-hmm. We called a timeout. We gave their offense and the coordinator and the team a chance to pause, hit reset, come up with a game plan. And then they get a first down, inside our 10-yard line, and what do? We call another timeout on a first down. Our last timeout spent, we give them another opportunity to recalibrate and come up with a game plan, and then they score the touchdown. We're out of timeouts, essentially out of time, and we're expecting, Dylan Gabriel to lead us 70 yards down the field for a touchdown, because now we're down 4.
Now we got to have a touchdown. Yeah.
And and I could be wrong on this, but that part of it, I think those were the 2 of his longest passes. I think he threw 2 passes over 10 yards, 2 or 3 passes over 10 yards, and the 2 at the end of the game on that final drive were 2 of his longest passes. One to Isaiah Bond, and I think one to Amari Thrash. Was the other one.
Yeah, he didn't get out of bounds.
Yeah, so I just thought it was just completely mismanaged in my. I would have, of course, we have the luxury at this point of hindsight, which the only thing we have as Browns fans is hindsight. But
we live in hindsight.
I would have forced Minnesota to burn their final timeout to slow things down, and then we would have had the luxury to see where we were at after they burned their time. Allow them to play fast. And we got the number 1 defense. You can't tell me that we didn't have the right guys in there.
Yeah.
So that's just it's just exceptionally frustrating. There were some bright spots. I thought we can touch on Gabriel here a little bit at this point. I thought he was very functional. He got the ball out quick. It was quick drops. He made quick decisions. He got the ball out quick. He was accurate. A lot of check downs. A lot of, like I said, I think only 2 or 3 passes over 10 yards. So it was a lot of short stuff, but only a couple sacks for minimal yardage and no turnovers. So, I think we talked a couple weeks ago, or maybe even when we drafted him, that this is a game manager, not a superstar. And that's what you got. You got a guy that, essentially managed the game, didn't make any big blunders, no big mistakes, but certainly didn't light the world on fire.
Here's the interesting part. And like I said, we'll talk more in detail on Dylan Gabriel. This is more a Browns thing, but it also pertains to Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since they've scored 20 points. Okay. It's been a long time. Now, they had Joe Flacco, who was turning the ball over multiple times a game, and Jameis Winston, who was turning over multiple times a game, right? And now he's the last time we had 20 as well. But since then, it's been a lot of turnovers and things like that. Yesterday, no turnovers, sacks, 100-yard rusher. Like, when you look at the things that have hurt us, they were gone.
Yeah, we put tape over those. Yes,
and we still scored 17 points.
Yes, yeah.
So it is. I'm gonna come back to this as I rant about some other stuff, but that is why, for me, like, I've always, for 5 years, 6 years now, I've not been a Stefanski fan. I'm out completely. Like, I'm done with Stefanski. Like, there's very little at this point I think he could do to win me back, short of win a Super Bowl. However, but some of the other things that, and I was laughing with you before, I want to rename our wide receiver room to the WHY receiver room. I don't know why we even have them. They don't do any good. When they have opportunities to make big plays in big moments, they drop the ball. They can't get open. We have Judy dropping on a 3rd and 13, a drive killer. Mm-hmm. You have Isaiah Bond with time creeping down at the end of the game and no timeouts, celebrating a catch and a first down, killing valuable seconds. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about if we had another couple seconds there and can run a different play to get maybe 15, 20 yards down the field for the last play. Yeah. Those extra couple seconds are a big deal.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. Like, and again, that goes back also the timeouts.
Yeah.
Right.
You'll be able to call a timeout. You can run whatever you want.
Right.
But our wide receivers had 13 targets, 5 catches, the big drop, and then the celebration. Like, it just,
Yeah.
Is there a less productive wide receiver room in the NFL?
No.
And it's, I go back to, I'm gonna come back to that when I give to Stefanski here in a minute. So the wide receivers were awful. Myles Garrett for the second week in a row. I'm sorry, but I love Myles, but he was non-existent. He did nothing to impact the game. And my problem with it last week, good offensive line,
Yeah.
good offense. This week, you're playing against 3 backups.
Yeah.
You telling me you can't
And
get
a backup quarterback.
and a backup quarterback.
That's virtually immobile.
And they're missing Aaron Jones, who's the running back.
Yeah.
So they're missing a lot of pieces, and he still didn't impact the game.
Yeah.
Like it's just one of those things with me. I've been always, as talented as he is, has always frustrated me about Myles. Is I feel like he plays when he wants to play, or he's a prisoner of the moment. When the moment's exciting and he's getting plays, he plays well. When the moment is and he's not playing well or not getting clear or not, he just kind of stops playing.
Yeah.
And he just comes off the ball. Oh, okay, let's do it again.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like somebody of his caliber should be able to make an impact every game in some way, and it may be different every game. But that was frustrating for me.
And I'm going to show my age a little bit here, but you remember the '85 Bears and Mike Singletary.
Mm-hmm.
The obviously middle linebacker and an edge rusher are 2 different things. I get that. But from a leadership standpoint, this is Myles Garrett's defense.
Yeah.
And, I can just remember, seeing Mike Singletary, grabbing face masks, grabbing, shoulder pads and smacking guys around and getting in their face and spit flying and,
go even more recent. Ray Lewis.
Yeah, exactly. Motivating guys, moving guys around, and essentially it's like the whistle blows, that plays over, and the Browns line up. And again, Jim Schwartz, the defense, this is not a complete utter shot.
I mean, you
at
can
the
see
defense.
they gave up 300 yards for the first time this year.
Yeah.
So it wasn't their best game, but they weren't bad.
No.
So it's not a knock saying the defense was bad. Now, against that caliber of opponent, when they did well against Cincinnati and Detroit and Baltimore, although Baltimore's
Green Bay.
Yeah. Right. They didn't have their best game.
Right.
So well,
I guess my expectations are that he needs to be that leader. We don't have somebody now. Maybe Schwessinger is going to turn into somebody like that, but right now this is Myles Garrett's defense and he sets the tone. And you're right, he disappears. Now, was it playing in London and playing at 8, jet lag and 8:30 in the morning? I don't know. There's all kinds of, we can make excuses. But
except he wasn't in London
at the
last
end of the
week.
game with 3 minutes to go at the 20-yard line. That's when
You
would expect
make
your
a
leader,
play.
Yeah, you expect your leader to go out there and shake things.
If you got to run through 3 guys, you dig deep and you run through 3 guys and you create havoc and you force a quarterback into a bad play.
100%.
Like it just that. I go back to Aaron Donald. In big games and big moments, he always seemed to make the big play.
Yeah.
He broke whatever the offense was trying to do. He broke it down. It may not be that he made a tackle, but maybe they were trying to run up the middle and he blew up the middle and forced them outside into where those guys, just something.
Disruptive.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah,
Disrupt. And I just feel like he didn't make any of those plays. And you can't, like Denzel Ward, you think about that catch by Justin Jefferson at the end. You can't play Justin Jefferson any better than Denzel did on that play.
Right.
He's that good for a reason.
Yes.
If we got some pressure on the quarterback, maybe he can't stand back there and make that throw. Same as the one that went over Denzel's head
To Addison.
to Addison for the touchdown.
Yeah.
A little bit of pressure, and maybe that's not a pinpoint pass. But we just didn't get in there to disrupt that drive. They had, I saw a thing, if I'm not mistaken, they had 3 drives of over 70 yards.
Yeah. Which again, and we talked about this when your offense is inept. How long can a defense sustain, this kind of quality that we've experienced with being the number 1 defense, rushing yardage, passing yardage, all the things that the defense has done well. How long? Well, we found out.
Yeah.
It's coming to an abrupt end, and the offense you're not going to win games. You know, again, we could say, "Oh my gosh, we were close." Well, close, close in the NFL doesn't cut it.
You're not paying guys 20, 30, 40 million dollars a year to get close.
And it is frustrating to say that we're 4 points away from being 3-2. You know, but we're 1-4. We're 1-4. The offense is inept. You've got it down here. The QB does not matter. Well, it's hard to argue with that. Essentially, you're right. We go back to, when was the offense good? We had 5 games with Joe Flacco in 2023. Prior to that, the last success we had was Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We talked this off season. We were all on board with Joe Flacco, but other names that were mentioned were Carson Wentz. You were an adamant no. You didn't want Carson Wentz. You didn't want.
I was an adamant no.
You were an adamant no.
I don't remember. I believe
Daniel Jones.
I think I would have been okay with Daniel Jones.
Well, I know Michael.
Was I staunch against him too?
I remember Michael and I were Daniel Jones. We're like, well, we get Daniel Jones. I
like his mobility.
Joe Milton was the other one that we all liked.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know if you liked him as much.
Michael. Yeah.
I mean, but we ended up landing on Flacco, and that turned out to. Listen, it is what it is at this point.
Here's my thing with Flacco is I think we all wanted him because of what we saw 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And with his skill set, I didn't think that would diminish as much as it did in 2 years.
Yeah.
Like that's what just his decision making, his arm speed, his arm power, like those are things that you wouldn't think you would lose. Things like mobility and the physical traits that are more demanding in the game and not just throwing the ball.
Yeah.
When you're, a golfer, in your 30s, you don't lose a lot of distance until you're much older. You know what I mean? Like it just
but seems weird. To your point here, though, Joe Flacco's not the problem.
No, that's
Joe Flacco's not the problem. Dillon Gabriel's not the problem. Now, Joe Flacco and Dillon Gabriel aren't the answer either.
No,
I guess that's.
But we knew that. We did know that.
Yeah.
Like that was. We never thought. We thought our defense could be good enough, and our offense had more skill than it did 2 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it does, and I'm sorry, I still think that way.
Right.
And we went through it the last week. Outside of Amari Cooper versus Jerry Jeudy, we're almost better across the board.
Mm-hmm.
But the offense is so inept, and going if this is where you're headed, going to Stefanski. Some of the things I look at, and this is what's so frustrating about what he doesn't do as a coach and why I'm completely out. Like, it doesn't matter the QB. I mean, just name off QBs. Joe Flacco, Dillon Gabriel, Jameis Winston, Deshaun Watson, PJ Walker. Who is the dude we traded for? DTR. You've got Baker Mayfield. You've got,
Jacoby
Brissett. That's the guy I was thinking of. Who's the big white guy that we had? He was a journeyman, but he was always a solid guy. We brought him. I can picture him. I just can't think of his name. Anyway, all these QBs. Our offense has never looked elite with any of them.
Mm-hmm.
We've had moments, but not consistently. He's never finished in the top half. The QB doesn't matter. His offense is bad.
Yeah.
Okay. I think about San Francisco, right? Last week on Thursday, Mac Jones given up by New England.
Mm-hmm.
Not good enough. They have Ayuk, I believe, is still out. Kittle is still out, right?
They lost Debo, right?
They don't have Debo anymore. Yeah, he's in Washington. Yeah. They don't have Debo anymore. Like, you're missing pieces that you would normally have, and a guy throws for 340 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I think about Minnesota. At the beginning of that game, I don't know if you noticed, but what do you do with great players?
You get them the ball.
Yeah, get them involved.
Yeah.
Get them the ball.
Yeah.
They, early in the game, Jefferson went in motion, was like in the backfield. They just ran, rolled out to the right as he just ran out, probably 3 yards out, got him the ball, let him run up the field, make a play, get the ball in his hands, get him involved in the game.
Yep.
Something.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that. That's, that's
just
the scheming to get, a Dylan Sampson the ball. It just doesn't happen. There is something wrong. And listen, I was sold after 2023. I'm thinking, okay, it's not a system thing. We just need the right player to plug in. And there's a 6'6" guy with a rocket arm, and he's not mobile, but he sells the run. He does great play fakes. He delivers a nice ball. He's got the leadership qualities. That's what we need here. But it's not.
Oh,
those 5 games, maybe it was a flash in the pan. Maybe it was more.
I think it was Joe Flacco came in off the couch, had nothing to lose, slung the ball fresh, while everybody else is a little worn down.
Yeah.
Now he's 2 years older, doesn't have the arm strength, the arm speed, and even a slower decision making to make those plays. One of the things I heard somebody else on a different podcast talking, and and I've said this again, I'm not tooting my horn. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse. Our offense never looks creative. Like I watch who was it last night? Was it Buffalo?
Yeah, Buffalo.
On the play, the touchdown. I'm watching this play, and Drake and I were watching it, and I said, "Oh my gosh, that was a great play." They took Curtis Samuel and they looped him around, and then they brought him back in motion. As soon as they hit the ball, he went back the other way.
Yes. Well, that's what I was talking about with Nick Saban and Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
They find ways to get their playmakers the ball, and Stefanski just doesn't seem willing or capable, or it's just not in the And again, okay, let's go back to Elijah Moore over the past couple of years. Obviously, he's not with us now, but you did see him try to get Elijah Moore the ball. It never panned out. So,
no, but he got him. He got a guy a ball on jet sweeps that doesn't have 4.2 speed. Like he was advertised as being fast, but you had to know watching him in practice every day. He doesn't have the physical traits to make that play.
Right. That Corley kid that was his only touch. He was a nice little run for 11 yards or something like that.
But the way I heard the offense described is I heard another podcast, Mikey McNuggets on UCSS, and he said when I was in high school, he played basketball. So I don't know if it'll mean as much to you, but I think you will understand the reference. He said we were. Our offense was good. Like we could score points and move the ball. We ran the flex. Anybody who knows basketball knows the flex is like the most basic yet universal offense. Mm-hmm. Everybody here, pass the ball, screen down, screen away, or screen away, screen down. Right? There's moves off of it, but that's your basic movement. When you get to college, you don't run the flex.
Right.
Because everybody can guard it. Like it's cookie cutter, it's basic. In high school, it works because people don't watch film. They're not scouting. They're not, whatever.
Right.
We're running the flex as an NFL team.
Right. No.
Like, think about when
super predictable. It's super predictable, and again, why receivers? There's no separation. We've talked in the past about why the teams we play. They seem to have wide receivers wide open at times.
Yeah.
They pick us apart when we run zone. And again, it's not every time, but our guys are never wide open.
Never.
So it's a scheme thing. And I'm not saying I'm 100% out on Steph, but if he got blown out of here tomorrow, I'm not sure I'd lose a wink. And
I'm winning them over, guys.
And we talked about this a little bit briefly. If not Steph, who's on your short list? Who are some names that you're thinking that that's a guy I wouldn't hate?
See, here I don't have that answer. I don't know, but I want somebody who you would look at and say is a creative offensive mind. Now the problem is Stefanski came in with that label. However, he left Minnesota, and all of that stayed in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So I don't know who that is, but you got to have somebody who's got some creativity. And if you bring in a head coach who's not an offensive-minded guy, getting an actual creative offensive coordinator. The other thing, going back to Jameis Winston last year when we actually scored 20 points.
Yeah.
You know who was running our offense at the time?
Yeah. the offensive coordinator. His name escapes me.
Yeah.
But,
Wasn't Stefanski.
no, it was not.
So just further proof. But like a Sean McVay, I put that down here too, but it just, the guy can be a head coach and an offensive coordinator. And you can give him Cooper Kupp or you can give him Puka Nacua, and he's going to get that guy 10 catches a game. He's going to find a way to get him 10 catches a game. It doesn't matter that the defense knows that he's going to get 10 catches a game.
Yeah.
He's getting 10 catches a game.
Yeah.
We can't even get 10 targets to a receiver. So I don't know. I don't know who the answer is. I just know after 6 years, it's not Stefanski.
Yeah.
You know, again, I'd take a defensive-minded guy. You know, let Schwartz run the team. Bring Greg Williams back. I don't care. Just bring in somebody who knows modern NFL offense and give that guy the reins and say, the offense is yours. I don't care if he's OC. I don't care if he's head coach. I don't care if he's the offensive line coach or quarterback's coach. I don't care if he's the water boy. If he knows offense, let him run with it.
Here's, I don't completely disagree, you know, but I think at this point in the season,
I don't think you do it during the season.
Yeah, I think the ownership might have the luxury and management might have the luxury to actually do some planning. I think in the past, some of the firings and hirings have been knee-jerk desperation. You know, Chudzinski and you know some of these guys, Freddie Kitchens, and you know we've had some doozies over the years. And but some of the names that you know, John Gruden. Now is he? You know, he's settling a lawsuit right now with the NFL. So, you know, I'm not sure, but there's a guy with NFL.
Maybe his penance would be they had to coach the Browns.
Yeah, NFL experience, Super Bowl experience. Now, again, his overall record is somewhere in the 500 range. He's not like this winningest coach, but he's also young enough. He's a quarterback guru. I mean, he knows. You know, so in that regard, I think that would be a guy that you know the name of. He's got NFL experience. I think some of that older regime.
Do you think? Because I know he was a candidate before, and I know he's been a head coach before, and I know it's flopped. But has enough time passed? Is there enough maturity and more experience now that the GOAT is gone? Do you look at a guy like Josh McDaniels?
Oh yeah, that's another one. You know, certainly
local guy.
Yeah, certainly Josh. Well, and the other local guy that you know popped into my head was Matt Campbell. He's the Iowa State head coach, Perry boy. So, you know, wildly successful. Brought the Iowa State program from irrelevance to relevance.
Yeah.
You know, he's a offensive-minded coach. I think he, you know, there's a
Bring
guy.
him in as OC?
I don't know. I mean, it's just a name that, you know, he could be very comfortable where he's at, and there could be another step in college that he would want to take.
Yeah.
You know, moving from an Iowa State to say maybe a Penn State that could be looking for a head coach at the end of this year. Which I wouldn't be surprised about, but. You know, Nick Saban, his name's been tossed around.
He's too old. I don't want him. I want somebody who, if they're successful, they can come in and last a while.
And here's the problem with that. Anybody that we get at this point is coming from they've had success as a coordinator here or success as a coordinator there, or they've been a successful college coach. You know, the regime of successful NFL coaches that have this pedigree, that they've been winning coaches, you know, it's a short list, and they're old. You know, Pete Carroll, Andy Reid.
Yeah.
You know, there's not a ton of them out there. That old guard is falling away, and you've got to kind of find. You know, which I think they were trying to find with the Kevin Stefanski, is you find a young guy who's an offensive mind and he's had success, and you know, but the problem is they're going to have to take another chance on something. And then, and this is something I was having a talk with Dane about. You know, you try and marry your GM and your head coach. You want that cohesiveness. That should be, you know, a marriage, so to speak, where the GM is is planning and scheming and drafting for the head coach's philosophy and their scheme, and the head coaches, there's good communication there. We've seen it not work where there's turmoil between those two positions. So, if Andrew Berry stays, how does that work? And he may have saved his job with this draft. I don't know how you feel about that, but I know you're not a huge AB fan, and we've certainly got stuff that we can complain about. But if you get rid of Stefanski, do you get rid of AB and you bring in a group?
I could be talked into getting rid of both.
And
to me, you're 1 for 6.
And anybody like Gruden or Saban that would come in, they'd want both positions.
I'd want somebody who could pick a quarterback.
I'm not sure, that there's not anybody that you could be 100% confident in coming in. And maybe, listen, if you're watching this and you've got a list of names that you're thinking about who might be available, throw them out there and we'll certainly discuss it. But
yeah,
if this is it for Stefanski,
not Ryan Day.
Yeah, well, he's not leaving. He'd be crazy to leave. And you don't want a guy like Franklin from Penn State. He's going to get canned from Penn State. He can't win the big game.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think a change is needed. If they don't turn it around and even have a somewhat competitive rest of the year,
what's that look like to you when you say what?
I mean,
what
they're 1-4. They got 12 games left, 6-6.
So you think 7
because
10?
You got one more in that sort of initial gauntlet of games, the first 6. You got one more of those. Then you've got Miami at some point, and who are some of the other ones? New England, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the Raiders.
Look at the schedule.
You got some of those games that maybe aren't like sure wins, but they're better opportunities to win.
We got Miami, New England, the Jets.
Yeah.
And then back to Baltimore, and then Vegas, San Francisco, Tennessee. So there's some winnable games in there. Yeah. But again, I'm not confident the way things are going that we can win the close games. We haven't proven to win the close games other than Green Bay and,
So if you can't go through those 12 games and get 6 wins with this roster, you don't deserve. With this defense, you don't deserve to be head coach. That's 6-6. That's my barometer. And even at 6-6, I'm not sure I keep him.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It depends on, I guess, what that 6-6 looks like. And I'm talking from a front office ownership perspective. I'm out completely. So short of a Super Bowl, you're not going to, he could go 12-0 the rest of the way, and I'm still not going to be on board. All right. Well, any last thing? We're going to get to a little bit of more on Dylan here in a minute, but anything to wrap up the Browns before we move on?
No, I think that about sums it up. It was extremely frustrating, hard to listen to. I was in the car, so listening to the radio broadcast and watching Gamecast on my phone. So it just was tough. I felt like we, again, my wife kind of nailed it with they're going to Browns it up, and it's not like I can even get frustrated with her saying that because it's just what we were conditioned to now.
We've been through it so many times; it's become normal.
No lead is safe. Certainly not a 3-point lead with 3 minutes to go.
No, there is a lead that's safe. It's when somebody has one on us.
That's true.
That lead is safe.
Well, and that's you're 100% right. We're not. There's no hope for a comeback with this offense as it sits right now.
No.
And so that's I'm ready to move on to either another topic or another coach or another quarterback.
or all three.
All three.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's just the Guardians season is over. September was exciting overall. The season was probably I can't say disappointing because they made the playoffs, but it definitely was a roller coaster of a year from the hitting struggles to Class A to the fantastic pitching in September. But, I guess, in terms of reflect on the season, we finally made it through the 162 games that we started talking about way back when. But just wanted to kind of talk for a minute just about your thoughts on the season, and any thoughts going into the offseason and the outlook for the team heading into next year.
Yeah, again, one of the lower payroll teams in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about it a little bit last week with us being one of the teams that does more with less. So in my opinion, they exceeded expectations. And again, September was just actually August and September, late July,
Yeah.
August and September, that run that they had to win the division, unprecedented, and it was exciting. We had the momentum, running into the playoffs, and just came up short. We burned through some key members of our bullpen. I think it was Gaddis and Smith.
Mm-hmm.
We burned through them in game 1 and game 2. Between the two games. So we were a little short in our bullpen coming into that game 3, and I think we just ran out of steam. Is there hope going forward? I mean, can we count on this kind of revival and overachieving from these guys? I don't think that's it's not a long-term recipe for success.
Mm-hmm.
But there is some, we're a young team. There's a lot of good young players on the team.
Yeah.
And if we could ever get the next contract on some of those, not just give them away after we develop them.
Yeah.
I think we could really have a
great farm team, and then we become the farm team.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's the way we've been for a long time.
Yeah.
I thought, again, it's hard, to watch every game. Can't see every game. You watch clips here and there. You read what you can. And it was kind of like I don't know if this is overstating. It was kind of a crescendo.
Yeah.
The year was real slow. It was like, we trudge along. And all of a sudden we built a little steam. And then you had the Class A thing in the middle that created a lot of noise. And then, all of a sudden, you had some pitchers step up and guys come out of nowhere. You brought some of the rookies up. That got exciting. And then all of a sudden September happened.
Yeah.
And once you made the playoffs, I think for this team, for me, it was like, if we win, great. If we don't, we made the playoffs still.
Yeah, right.
That expectation wasn't necessarily there, but it's hard to knock any year where you make the playoffs. I mean, if the Browns were making the playoffs at the clip that the Guardians are and losing in the first or second round every year, we'd still be okay.
Yeah.
We'd be like, oh man, if we could just get over the hump. Oh my, we're so close. Like,
right.
So I can't knock them because they didn't do it. And they're doing it with a payroll that the Browns scoff at.
Yeah.
I mean, Deshaun Watson is almost making more money than his cap hit is almost more than the entire Guardians roster.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about what they did, it's fantastic. It's phenomenal. You just wish you had an ownership group that could spend more. And we have a lot of great young players. I wrote down here, our potential lineup next year, Bo Naylor, CJ Kafis. I'm hoping Travis Bazzana comes up, at second. Rocchio moved to short. Jose at third. Chase DeLauder and Valera on the corners, and move Stephen Kwan to center field. And then Manzardo's your DH. Like, that's a pretty potent but young and inexperienced.
You don't have Aria in there either, right?
Well, he would be off the bench in that case, because you're bringing up Bazzana, and I think Rocchio kind of showed he's a little more valuable than Arias. So that's why I said I would move Rocchio to short and let Bazzana play second.
He's young too, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
that's what I mean. You got Arias, you got Angel Martinez. You've still got
Schneemann and
Schneemann.
Fry.
Well, I think Fry's a free agent, so I doubt he comes back, especially off that injury. So I don't think he'll come back. But you've got basically your entire lineup is sub 30 outside of Jose, and most of those guys are still on their rookie deals, which you still have control over for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So it's something you could build. There's a lot of potential there.
You think there's any regret with the Bieber trade and how that whole, that
hindsight's always 2020. Looking back, do they probably wish? I can't even think who they got in that trade. Did they get anybody that helped down the stretch anyway. I can't remember who they got in that trade.
I don't know.
But hindsight's always 2020.
Yeah.
You know, at that point, you're double-digit games back. You're not even close to the playoff race. You know, you can get assets back for him. Yeah, you trade him. I mean, we were talking about trading Stephen Kwan.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't think you can sit there and say you regret that.
We
Because
got right-handed pitcher Kai Steven from Toronto for Shane.
oh,
Bieber.
that's right. That's right.
Did he?
No,
He didn't even play.
no, he didn't really figure into things. But you know, the one I think our pitching is going to be okay. But I still think we need a bat. And that's, I heard somebody, and I don't, this is a pipe dream if the ownership said, you know, what is
So
it?
we're gonna go ahead and spend $20 million.
Yeah, we're gonna raise our cap 20-30 million.
Yeah.
One free agent that would be fun would be Pete Alonso, but he's
Yeah.
played with the Mets his whole career, so he's not
Yeah.
leaving. But
Right.
you get a guy like that, a bat like that behind Jose.
Right.
You know, he batted 280. He played all 162 games this year.
Yeah.
Batted 280, had almost 40 homers and almost 130 RBIs.
Yeah.
You know, you get a
That's-
guy like that behind Jose in this lineup,
Yeah. That's the
and
kind
then
of
you
guy.
put Manzardo behind him.
Yes.
Like now you've got that middle of your lineup's got some bats.
It's got some chunk to it.
Yeah. You know, you've got, you know, 3 guys who are 30 plus homers
Yeah.
in the middle of your lineup.
Well, I do see them making a move. You know, so maybe something like that might come into play. You know, the move they made this past year, Santana, that just didn't pan out.
No, he, you know, 40 years old. You know, it seems almost more like a nostalgia signing than it was.
Yeah.
You know, that was a fan service signing. You know, here's a guy that was with us. He was a fan favorite. Let's bring him back, you know, for pennies because we can't get anybody else.
Right. Right.
You know,
And it didn't.
hey,
pan out.
fans, we tried.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know,
Well,
but
it'd just be nice to go through the, you know, if you think about 2024, you know, the Tribe played exceptional through the year.
Yeah.
You know, exceptional through the
Mhm.
year and had a huge lead, won the division.
Mhm.
You know, it was pretty remarkable.
Detroit,
year-
Detroit made the late push last
right,
year. Yeah.
Right. And this year it was just the opposite,
Yeah.
where we
Mhm.
struggled mightily early and,
Yeah.
and through the middle of the season. We had a fire sale, what we thought was going to be. Kwon was on the chopping block, I thought.
Yeah.
You know, at least that's what was the rumor. So it'd be nice to bring a bat in, and we could, you know, or two, or some of these guys develop. You know, this Bazzano was supposed to be, he was, you know, touted as the real deal, and
Yeah.
he struggled in the minors early, and then the injury, and but there were some bright spots. You know, some of these guys that came up in September and in the playoffs, you know, were kind of nice to see.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it's a hold on. My daughter's out of town and she needs access. Hang on.
he needs access to your wallet.
Well, she got that already. Not much in there, but she got it. No, it's to me. So you know, Jose led us with 30 homers. You're not going to win in the playoffs with a lineup that, you know, pitching's too good.
Yeah.
You've got to have guys that at any moment can turn the tide of a game.
Right.
And, you know, whether, you know, Manzardo can take the next step, Kefis, Bazzano, those guys. But that's why somebody like a Pete Alonso would be so nice, just because it's an established bat you know is going to come in.
Yeah.
We're not going to spend the money for it, but
Well, you know, you remember last year in the playoffs against the Yankees, and we're running that gauntlet through their lineup.
Yeah.
And it's just like
every inning you're like,
yeah. At any given moment, one of
Yeah.
those guys, you know,
And it
Judge, or
did.
one of those other guys could just crack one.
Yeah.
And we don't, you're right, we don't have that. You know, every guy that comes up, we're like, man, hopefully this guy gets hopefully this is his 1 out of
Yeah.
20 at-bats
Yeah.
that he gets a single,
Yeah.
you know?
And then you
Or
got to
maybe-
hope the guy after him gets his 1 out of 20. And then
Yeah.
the guy after him,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
you're not, it's now we had the one game where we had the 3 homers, but, you know, other than that,
Right. I'd
We
be
had no
curious, and maybe,
bats.
you know, when we get to spring training, we talk more Guardians, but how many games we had in 2025 where there were multiple home run games? There probably weren't many,
no.
you know.
No. And most of the time, late, especially when, you know, we won and we're on that roll and we had a lot of late game homers
Yeah.
that won us games. You know, that's it's kind of the recipe. in major leagues right now, when you have very few people that are average guys, you've got to have guys who can turn the tide with one swing. You just have to.
Right.
So,
speaking of turning the tide, talk about the Buckeyes.
they're fun. They're fun. I actually saw I didn't even get to see the whole clip today, but I saw he was a national guy, college football guru. Name's escaping me. He had a whole breakdown of, because first thing I put up there was defense is legit. He talked about the Buckeyes defense, and he just went on about, and it wasn't just the talent. He says the way they communicate. So he had clips where you can see pre-snap, they're talking and moving and fingers pointing and guys running, and then the ball snap, and you can see all 11 guys moving as one unit. Like it is, when you watch it slowed down and broken down like that, it's pretty crazy how in sync that unit is. And I did some research. Like right now, they've given up 25 total points in 5 games. Now, yeah, they played Grambling State and OU. Okay. But at the time, they played the number 1 team in the country. They played Washington, that was undefeated, and they played Minnesota, that was 3-1. They played 3 teams. 2 of those are Big Ten. The other was number 1 team in the country. They're viable teams. They're giving up 5 points a game. To find a defense, now, will this last the whole year? I don't know. Right. Yes, I know I'm extrapolating over a 12-game season after 5 games. They very well could have a game where they give up 25 points and, this is moot. But right now they're giving up 5 points a game. The last team to give up 5 points or less, 66 years ago, in 1959. It was LSU Tigers in 1959 gave up 4.3 points per game. There was one other team, I think in the 70s, that gave up 5.3. But other than that, it was like 8, 9, 10 points for the most dominant defense. I think I told you the 01 Hurricanes, which for a lot of people consider like the creme de la creme of defenses, like their defense was ridiculous. They gave up 9 points per game. And call me, I don't even want to say I'm biased because I was a huge fan back then. That was Buckeyes national championship, but the game has changed. It's a lot more wide open now, a lot more passing, a lot more scoring.
Yeah.
And then it was, back then it was Maurice Clarett in, 4 yards and a cloud of dust.
Yeah.
And so you're giving up 9 points against a primarily a running football. And now it's 5 points against a wide open, more pass heavy offense. It's impressive.
Yeah.
And their defense is just, Caleb Downs is a stud. But it's not just that. They have a bunch of guys who, we're still learning their names because last year they lost everybody.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now, these guys are just stepping up and they just do not make many mistakes.
Well, and just for context here, I went ahead and looked it up. And the 2001 Hurricanes, they played the likes of East Carolina, Troy State. They beat Syracuse 59-0, Boston College 28-0. So Louisiana Tech.
So those were all top 10 teams. No, they weren't.
They were not.
They were not.
If anybody wants to complain about the Grambling, Ohio
and OU,
it's not.
I'm glad you looked that up.
Yeah. So just for a little bit of context, this defense is probably one of the best I've seen so far in that I can remember. Anyway,
they're so fast too.
It's funny because last year, as good as the Buckeyes were last year, one of the things everybody was worried about was Knowles leaving, our defensive coordinator leaving and going to Penn State. Mm-hmm. And Knowles went to Penn State and gave up 25 points in a half to UCLA, a winless UCLA team.
Yeah.
And we haven't given up 25 points all year, And I also saw some talk up from the players from the locker room about the difference between Knowles and Patricia and how they were nervous. Patricia's different and comes to it from more of a professional standpoint, and he holds these guys accountable, and now they're holding each other accountable.
Yeah.
And to your point, the communication thing. And that's kind of what I was talking about with the whole Myles Garrett thing.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
you need somebody that's going to be.
You got to take ownership of what you're doing on the field.
Yes.
It's not just and that's a great way to put it. You watch the Browns, it's like 11 guys doing something. When you watch the Buckeyes, it's like one unit working together.
Yeah.
Like it's fascinating, and I wish I had that or could even pull it up to show it. But those clips were just fascinating because it's the wide shot where you can see everybody. It's not the TV angle, and it's elite level unit play.
Right.
I won't even say players.
Well, and, when NFL coaches are looking at and scouts are looking at guys, that's the stuff that they're looking for. They're not looking, necessarily for that guy that just lines up on the edge and rushes the quarterback with reckless abandon every time. The freak athlete.
Can he hold the edge when he needs to?
Right. Can he do what's his responsibility?
Yeah.
And these defenses are getting more technical, just like the offenses are.
Yeah.
And when I was coaching youth football, I know it's way different, but I tell the kids, it was DYJ, man, do your job. You don't have to worry about anything else. You do your job, right?
And it works.
Yeah, do your job.
Yeah.
And so if on that particular scheme it's rushing the quarterback, that's great. You do that with reckless abandon. But if it's holding the edge or setting the edge or taking the double team, or you're the part of the scheme on the X, you just do your job. Don't worry about it. You're not out there for your glory. You're out there for the team's success.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to see the Buckeyes have the kind of success that they're having, and they're going to be, and I think I told you this, they're going to be just exceptionally fun to watch through this stretch of the season. They're getting into Big Ten. This is the meat of the schedule for the Big Ten, and
Illinois next week.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun test. Yeah. I think we're really going to set. There's a lot of people saying, "Oh, this could be an upset," but I think.
Interestingly, they lost 61-13 to Indiana. That's their one loss for Illinois.
Yeah,
bad loss.
So I don't think it's going to. I think it's going to be a blowout. I think that Ryan Day. And he's
figuring some things out offensively.
Yeah, and I think I could tell from his pregame or halftime interview this past weekend was he's we got respect for Minnesota. They're a great team, great group of kids. We're striving for perfection. We're striving for greatness. What was he focused on in that halftime interview? We really screwed up that third down. That was a mistake. He's already next leveling this stuff. He's not looking past anybody, but he's go ahead.
No, I'm going backwards to go ahead to piggyback that. But you bring that up, and did you hear what Judkins said?
No.
I don't remember the exact quote, but after their game, it was something about Ohio State. He said, the thing that I learned at Ohio State was that the only acceptable thing was winning. Like, it was a culture of winning. That's the only expectation. That's the only acceptable thing is winning. And I don't remember exactly how he phrased it, but what an indictment on the Browns culture.
Right. What is our culture in Cleveland right now?
That he's saying his 1 year in Ohio State, and it was phrased in a way where you could infer he's saying that's not the Browns culture.
Yeah.
So that's a problem on the Browns. But in terms of what you're talking about with the Buckeyes, that's exactly right. Yeah. I'm not a huge Ryan Day fan, but the man strives for perfection. He does.
Well, and he was a man on
and
a
he's
mission.
growing. He is growing on me, unlike Stefanski.
Yeah, he looked and carried himself like a man on a mission. I think, there's just some stuff that you could tell he's got a chip on his shoulder. They counted him out last year.
Yeah.
He was counted out. We lost to Oregon. We lost to Michigan. We were counted out. And then we come into this year as the reigning champions, and we're ranked third. That's another slight. You were the champions last year, but we already think these other teams are better than you.
Yeah,
so he's a man on a mission, but I think he hears the noise, but he's laser focused on
Yeah.
getting these guys to perfection. And I can just imagine that that's how they're running practices, and that's how he's got these guys. You know, every phase of their life in college at Ohio State is dialed in. And it's you know, we're gonna do things, and we're gonna do things 100% the right way.
The other thing, and this is going way off topic, we're kind of away from the game, but whatever. It's still pertinent. One of the things, I'm not a big, I was always a proponent of paying college athletes. I abhor NIL.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's ruining the sport in an unintended way. However, one of the things that it does do is it allows coaches and it allows staff and it allows teams to demand more of their players. You're getting paid $7 million.
Right.
Get your butt to work.
Yeah.
Get your butt in class.
Yeah, you're going to be in
Get
class.
great.
You're going to get
Like,
good grades.
you can demand more because I'm not just giving you a free ride. I'm paying you life-changing, I could retire now type money.
Right.
And when you're doing that, you can do what Ryan Day's doing and create a culture where anything less than, you're gone.
Right.
And,
and I think
in that way, I think it's good. You know,
he's setting himself apart, and I think there's other schools that are doing it too. But you know, trying to manage this NIL, this portal, this whole debacle that they kind of opened Pandora's box, and now we're all dealing with the aftermath. But I think Ryan Day, the Buckeyes, there's probably a few SEC teams as well that are, managing it. But I think in the future, teams are going to look at what Ohio State has done, and they're going to copy it because it's a recipe. At least at this stage of the game, it appears to be a recipe that's working.
Yeah.
How they're, because one of my knocks from the NIL, and I know again we're getting off on a tangent here, but
that's okay.
was that
Buckeye stuff.
It potentially ruined the loyalty, and that was one of the beautiful things about college football was that you went to Ohio State, you were going to be there for 4 or 5 years. We're going to get redshirted and play the other 4 years, or whatever the case was. But you were an Ohio State Buckeye. Yeah. And NIL kind of, you have these guys that are in and out, and Quinshon Judkins, is an example of that. He played 3 schools or 4 schools.
So did Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, Dylan Gabriel the same way. So. The loyalty part of it, but I think Ohio State is getting a handle on that, and I think there's going to be, and there should be, a reward for coming in and paying your dues and being a Buckeye.
Yeah. The only counterpoint that I think the players would say is there was not necessarily the same loyalty from the coaches, but in my experience, that loyalty was given as long as you came in and did the job you were brought in to do.
Sure.
Even if you weren't a superstar, if you came to practice and work hard every day, if you went to the classroom, if you did the things that were expected of you, they weren't going to ship you off. If you were a locker room problem, if you were flunking out of school, if you were in practice only going half go, if you weren't focused or learning the playbook, or, then they're going to find a player better and ship you out, find some place where maybe you can do better. So that's my experience, but it is two-sided, but it's NIL's out of control. But that's all. We actually, that would be a fun topic to discuss one day.
Yeah.
On a podcast, because there are 2 sides to it. I get it. I get why the kids, some of them think that their name, image, and likeness is worth millions of dollars because somebody's willing to pay it.
Yeah. Well, there should be some compensation. Yeah. Again, I think it was. I don't want to say it wasn't well thought out, but it certainly wasn't properly launched.
It wasn't legislated. I won't say it wasn't well thought out. It wasn't legislated. So they had the premise, but they didn't have any oversight. And so they didn't build it in, so there is no limits. If somebody wants to go to Ohio State and there's a booster that's got a advertisement, he wants to pay him $100 million. Welcome. Oop.
Yeah.
Oop. Wrong way.
Yeah.
So, last couple things, and then I'll let you add a point, and then we'll move on. But I love what I'm seeing from Carnell Tate. Early on, it was like trying to force feed Jeremiah Smith. Teams were doubling him. There wasn't much going on elsewhere, but he has really stepped up, and he is starting to become as much of an option. You're not as talented, but as much of an option as Jeremiah Smith, which is only going to make things easier on Jeremiah Smith. And then you add in this last game what Max Clare was able to do out of the tight end position. Now you've got a three-headed receiving monster with Bo Jackson in the backfield, and that's going to be tough to come up against. And I think, and we said it, we say in Heisman, it's early, but Heisman talk's going to start up soon.
Yeah.
And you're early on favorites, and I'm so bad with names on the spot, but Drew, what's his Aller from Penn State, and oh my gosh, Manning, Arch Manning from Texas.
Yeah, no.
Your early favorites. Sayin leads the country in completion percentage. He's I think third in, I wrote it down somewhere, in QBR in the country. He's on the number one team in the country. He's got Jeremiah Smith, but you still got to find and get the ball. And some of the passes he's making lately, he's dropping in buckets.
Yeah,
just guys.
And he's only going to get better.
Yeah.
He's got the kid's growing into the position. He looks like the real deal. And I said this earlier. This stretch, to the end of the season and to the playoffs is prime time for this kid to showcase what he can do. And then he's hopefully going to get a few games in the playoffs and the championship game. He's going to be able to solidify himself in that conversation.
Yeah.
And he's got weapons, but you still, again, you have have to make the throws.
Got to make the right read, the right throw, the accuracy.
Funny thing on Aller, I saw a meme on him that says Drew Aller has everything needed to be a good NFL quarterback if he could just get better at football. Okay.
There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. So
I never did get his hype. Every time we've watched him play the Buckeyes, I'm like, I just don't understand it. But somebody must see something I'm not.
Yeah.
But I legitimately think the Buckeyes have the potential to have 3 Heisman candidates.
Oh yeah.
Caleb Downs is the best defensive player in the country. Jeremiah Smith is the best offensive player in the country. And right now, Julian Sayin is one of the top QBs on the number one team in the country.
Yeah.
I don't know. I doubt it'll end up that way, but at least an interesting possibility. Well, let's move on. We're going to talk a little more about, at least we could touch on the other ones if we want. I'll go first on Gabriel because I know yours might be a little better than mine. I don't see it. I know it's one game. And I'm going to say I'm going to tangent to bring it back. I was going to talk about it earlier, but I thought I'd save it for now. Jackson Dart. We passed on him. Could have had him. The only other quarterback with like a round 1 grade, we passed on him. He's now playing in New York. Not perfect, not great. He made some mistake, had a couple picks, but when I watch, I'm looking for something that shows an it factor. When Josh Allen was a rookie, he threw a lot of interceptions, but he made some plays that you were like, what the what? Right? Lamar Jackson wasn't an MVP his rookie year. There are plays that you watch those guys and you're like, there's something there. So Jackson Dart had some scrambles and some hard passes and passes under pressure and things that, throwing against his body that were like, yeah, he wasn't perfect. And I didn't see the whole game. Mm-hmm. But man, some of those plays, you're like, there's something there.
Well, he's got a little moxie too. A little edge to him.
And that's my final nail in the coffin for Stefanski. Dylan was his guy. Mm-hmm. If Jackson Dart ends up a starting quality caliber quarterback, Stefanski needs to be done. 100% full stop. Because for me, Dylan Gabriel is not an NFL starting QB. It's one game. I get it. But name one play where you were like, you got your eyes wide. Mm-hmm. There wasn't one.
Yeah.
Drop back, dunk, dink, dunk, dink, dunk, dink. Anything over the top, anything out of the pocket was high. He was 2 for 9 on throws over 10 yards. You know the 2 completions
at the end of the game.
at the end of the game.
At the end of the
So you went 59 minutes and 45 seconds with no completions over 10 yards. I'm not going to cut it.
You wait till they get into prevent deep
Yeah,
zone.
yeah,
you know,
and that's when they open up.
And that's when
Yeah.
those plays open up.
You know, I think he's too small. I think he's athletic, but he's not fast. I think he can right now he can only be effective outside the pocket. You know, he just some of the overthrows early on. I know it's one game. I'm overreacting. I get it. I'm okay with that. Because I'm looking for we're gonna talk a little Cavs next. Jalen Tyson.
Mhm.
Okay. Rookie last year. After one preseason game, I didn't like his game. But I said there's something there because the kid was a bulldog. The kid was fearless. He got after it on both.
Scrappy.
Yeah, like there's something you can use there. I didn't see anything in Dylan Gabriel. There was nothing I thought that was like, I can see what Stefanski saw. What I saw was Stefanski.
Right.
I'm great in the book. I'm poor in performance. Like I
But
hope I'm wrong.
You look at Jackson Dart and
go ahead.
Scatabo. You look at Jackson Dart and Scatabo at New York, and you know those two guys. They have a little bit of Baker Mayfield in them. A little
Yes.
bit of
Yeah.
that edge that, and fans love that.
Yeah.
You can say what you want about Baker, but when he came into the game and he's getting the crowd involved and he's pumping his fist and
The play where he got tackled late out of bounds and came running back onto the field and went,
Yeah. And getting in guys' faces, when they tackle him, and just he gets that kind of and Jackson Dart has that energy. And Scatabo plays reckless.
Did you see that one? It's total segue. Sorry. Did you see the one block Scatabo had?
Yeah.
And then like the defensive lineman got ticked.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was awesome.
Yeah.
But anyway,
No, but to your point, Gabriel isn't that's not him. That's not him. He's not that. He is, Kevin Stefanski as a 25-year-old, 24-year-old quarterback. That's the personality. He's very cerebral. He's a game manager. He understands. I think he really knows the playbook. He knows the philosophy. He knows what needs to be done. And you could see, he's very disciplined. He gets the ball out quick. And to your point, a lot of it was dink and dunk. But, I think that was the game plan for him, maybe on his first outing. I don't think he's a guy that's going to be taking the 7-step dropbacks and able to make that throw after, 6 seconds back there. I don't think he's going to have that luxury. So, I thought early on, that's a guy you draft as a backup quarterback.
That's what I think he is. I think he's a good, reliable backup quarterback because he's going to come in, not make a lot of mistakes.
We don't have a starter. We don't have a starter, or we do, and I heard this on another podcast today. I don't remember which one, but
does he wear number 12?
Well, that's nobody. He's not getting an opportunity, and maybe he's not ready.
Yeah, he may not be, but
for whatever reason.
I said last week, he is a leader, and I think he's a guy players will follow, and I think that's just as valuable, if not more valuable, than a guy who knows the playbook.
So it'll be interesting over the next little while here. This is going to be the last thing I'm going to say about Dylan Gabriel, but it'll be interesting to see when they determine that they've seen enough of him. I don't think he's a guy that's going to turn a corner for this team. I don't think he's going to. He's not the guy that's going to push us over the edge with his gameplay. At least I don't see it yet.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, how long until they say, okay, we know what we've got in him. He's going to be a great backup in this league. We've got him for 3 years. Let's see what we got in this other kid. Is that going to be it in week 10? Is it going to be in week, right after the bye? Do we go to Sanders and see what we've got for a few games? I don't think as a fan base at this point, we're 1-4. I don't think anybody be ticked off to see what we got. We have 2 first-round draft picks next year. The fan base is numb. We're numb. We know that we're already looking to 2026. Yeah. So, We realize, okay, Joe Flacco didn't work out. We had 4 opportunities. It was a tough schedule. We had offensive line issues, but whatever. He was not the answer. So I think
it'd be interesting.
At some point, they're going to move to. They have to move to that, in my opinion.
No, and then I think you have to, unless for some miracle where we go on a run and we're making a playoff push, then you stick with whatever's getting you there.
Yeah.
But you go, like you said, you go into next year. You've got to know, do I need a quarterback in this draft or not?
Right.
Now, right now, I'm not sure there's a quarterback worth drafting in the first round, but things can change quickly. But I think Shedeur has to play. And if this is what you're going to get from Dylan, no mistakes, but 17 points a game, then that's no different than Joe Flacco.
Right.
Then you have to give, you get to a point where you're, 3-8,
right,
3-9. And yeah, I think you turn it over. I think, you had 4 games for Flacco. That leaves 13 games left in the season.
Yep.
Dylan gets the next 5 or 6 games.
Yep.
See what he can do. The difference in this week, and so maybe I sing a different tune next week, is he gets a full week of being the starter. They're not having to travel overseas. It's a little more of a regular week. Maybe he does better. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, Carson Wentz had the same excuse, except he'd started games. Just real quick, Judkins, the kid's the real deal.
He is the real deal.
He's the real deal. He had another run over 30 yards. He had a touchdown run of over 50 yards that was called back. I don't know that I can remember him ever being brought down by one guy as a first tackler. I can remember him running through tackles that we used to see from Nick Chubb. His first game was only a partial game.
Yep.
Right? And he missed the first game of the year. And he's 4th in the league in yards per game. Now, he was 5th, but I looked it up, and whoever was 4th, it's escaping right now, had like 79 yards. And so Judkins passed him up, and I don't think anybody else would have flip-flopped, just looking at the list. So I'm pretty sure right now he's 4th in yards per game with no passing. And they know he's going to be that guy. Like, it's not like they have a second running back. It's not like they have this, awesome passing game that the teams have to respect.
Right.
Like, right now they can load up the box and try to stop him.
Yeah.
And I like the way he runs. I think last week, I like him to a young Kareem Hunt. And the more I see him, the more I see that. And there's nothing not to like. I think he's a future Pro Bowl caliber player, maybe even this year. I mean, think about this. He's on pace right now. And that's with missing the first game and the second game being a, partial game.
10 snaps.
Yeah. He's right now on pace, I believe, for like 1,400 yards as a rookie.
So he made a little bit of history. Quinshon Judkins becomes the first Brown rookie running back with 100+ scrimmage yards in consecutive games since 2018 when Nicholas Jamal Chubb came in. Also becomes the 4th running back to reach 60+ yards in each of his first 4 career games.
Oh, wow.
So, there is a bright spot. And we go back to this draft class, as a whole. I know there's obviously, we're not all that high on Dylan Gabriel right now. We've been pretty clear on that. So taking the quarterbacks out of that, this draft class as a whole has been a very bright spot, and just to glimpse back at last year's draft, we have not seen Zinter. He's been inactive.
No, he's been a healthy scratch.
He's been a healthy scratch every week. Zinter, the guard from Michigan, and Michael Hall Jr.
hasn't played at all.
Who got hurt in Week 18 last year.
Yeah, hasn't played at all yet.
Hasn't played at all yet. So this year, and again, we talked pre-season, pre-draft. When we were doing all of our podcasts back then about needing contributors. We have holes and we need contributors.
Yeah.
And not a huge AB guy, but I got to give the dude credit. He had
a good draft.
We have contributors. Done a nice job. So
he had a good draft. And I mean, Judkins right now is the star of the draft. Schlesinger is probably not far behind.
Yeah.
You got Promise and Bond. And again, I'm not saying Dylan's bad.
Right.
I just don't think Dylan is a long-term starter. To me,
I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen anything that says there's a guy that can that guy can put the team on his shoulders and win us a football game. And you need a quarterback that can do that.
Right.
You know, Joe Flacco in 2023 did it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen any of that since then.
No.
You know,
no. And so, but as a third round pick, you probably expect more. We'll see. And maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, you've got Judkins is good. Schlesinger and Judkins, I think, are Pro Bowl caliber players. Bond is showing flashes. Fannin, I think, will be really good. Sampson is serviceable. You know, Graham is up and down right now. Now, I did hear somebody say they watched every play for him specifically of the Lions game and were surprised how much the Lions double teamed him. So that's a lot of respect for a rookie. So we'll see.
He made some plays. He made some plays yesterday. I'm looking here.
He there was one where he chased down the who was it? Chased him down on the outside. You know, good pursuit.
Yeah, he had Mason Graham 2 tackles, 2 solos.
Yeah.
No quarterback pressures, no quarterback hits, no tackles for loss. You know, so again, you know, I think, you know, but then you got Carson Schlesinger and Devin Bush, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot to be encouraged with the rookie class, but obviously Judkins and Schlesinger are kind of the cream of the crop. You know, we'll see what we have in Gabriel. So not a bad first start, not a great first start, you know, average. Yeah. Average isn't going to cut it in the NFL.
Well, you know, I think, you know, I just wonder this too, and this is just something to keep an eye on too, is Mason Graham opening things up for Malik Collins.
Possibly.
He had 2 sacks yesterday.
Possibly.
You know, he's been a huge acquisition. You know, you got Myles Garrett eating double teams, hopefully, probably. Got Mason Graham maybe eating double teams.
Opening up for the other guys.
And Malik Collins just having a field day.
Yeah, which he is. He's been playing really well.
Sometimes those defensive linemen are, you know, like the offensive linemen. It's like thankless job sometimes.
Right.
You know, you just get your head kicked in and
every play.
No glory.
No, hardly any stats to show for it. But
so anyway.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. We'll see. Like I said, I don't think any of them are bad. It's just about how good can this rookie class be. It's by far AB's best, but to me, it's not enough to save his job. But good draft class. Tomorrow, so we're taping this on Monday. Tomorrow, October 7th, is the Cavs' first preseason game. Just real quick, I just wanted to touch and I'll give you my thoughts and then you can give me yours. But I think what we'll do, I think we'll see, what we will see is I think we'll see the starters play like 10 to 15 minutes, just get their legs moving, find some rhythm. And I think you're going to get a heavy dose of the young guys. And I don't think you're going to see a ton of minutes from veterans. Lonzo Ball, I have down there, you know, it'd be fun to see Okoro and Lonzo Ball go against each other now on opposite teams, you know, traded for each other. But I don't think you're going to see more than 10 to 15 minutes from them. You might not even see Lonzo Ball. They might just put him in a hyperbaric chamber until the playoffs. But I don't think you're going to see a lot from Larry Nance Jr. I don't think you're going to see a lot from Thomas Bryant. So those 8 guys, I think you're going to get maybe 8 to 15 minutes for any of them. But I think you're going to get a heavy dose of Jalen Tyson, Tyrese Proctor, Naquan Tomlin. And those are the 3 guys I'm most excited to see because they're the 3 guys that give the Cavs something they don't have elsewhere on their roster. Tyrese Proctor, kind of a younger, better shooting, Lonzo type ball type player. You know, Jalen Tyson, just a bulldog.
Like a 6.
He's 6'6" point guard.
Okay.
Or 6'6" guard. We'll see where they play him. I'm not sure I'm not sure what his role will be. That's kind of what I'm interested to see. Jalen Tyson, I want to see what his match rate. I'm interested to see his body. Like how much weight did he put on? You know, he's not the most athletic kid, so if he's not going to increase his athleticism, I'd like to see him put on 5 to 10 pounds of just muscle because he'll run people over. Naquan Tomlin, 6'9", can shoot the ball. At the end of last year, had some games where you're like, where's he been?
Yeah.
You know, like I want to see what those guys can do because it adds some depth. but they also can each in their own way do something that guys on the team, other guys can't do. Naquan Tomlin, that's 6'9", just like shooter, scorer, finds ways to get buckets. Jalen Tyson can play both ends of the floor. He's physical. He's good with the ball, and then Tyrese Proctor with just his overall IQ and playmaking. That's kind of what I want to see.
Create some matchup issues. When you got depth, it's nice to put pressure on other teams in that way. There are 4 preseason games. I did look that up. So it's weird. We play Chicago, Boston, Detroit. So it's
nice.
back-to-back games against Chicago in the preseason here. So but so we're 3 weeks away from, I think, the 22nd, or 2.5 weeks away is opening night. So we've got 4 preseason games for the Cavs. Then we're into, we're going to be talking Cavs, and hopefully the Browns can make a turnaround. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see. I know we're battling a couple injuries early here with DG and Strus, so it'll be interesting to see how they patch that up, and how the rest of the team kind of fills in that gap, and who steps up and who's and you don't want the other guys like Mobley and those guys to have to play 48 minutes,
right.
to win games. So, are we gonna make a historic run and win a huge amount of games? Are we a 70 win or a 65 win team again? I think the roster says we probably could be, but we're without 2 starters for a chunk of that. At least probably 2 months, right?
Garland, they're talking for Strus possibly even early next year.
So early January.
Garland, November, December.
So
10 games. I heard 10 to 15 games.
Okay, so it could,
for him.
But it'll be interesting to see. I think there's enough depth and talent, but it'll,
there is. I think there is for the regular season, and that's why we were so successful last year. It didn't matter who you brought in. The way the tempo they play, the defensive style. And that's what I also like about the 3 guys I said. They also have size.
Yeah.
You're not bringing, 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" off the bench. Right. You're bringing, 6'6", 6'6", 6'9".
Yeah.
Guys who are a little more versatile. But I think they'll be fine without those guys. But like you said, some of those younger guys need to step up into a role that they won't necessarily need to have all year, so that you're not having, you can't afford to lose Donovan Mitchell because he's playing 40 minutes a game, just trying to get wins early in the season.
But coach has to have confidence that when you are put in that position, again, I think Sam Merrill did a great job there at the end of last season in the playoffs, and I think he proved his worth a little bit there, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's I think he's gonna. I think they will sacrifice wins early in the year to develop roles and ensure rest. I think they don't care whether they win 66 games or 46 games as long as they get to the playoffs, and get to the playoffs healthy and in shape.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Gotcha.
So just last few things I kind of put on here, talk about it is you guys, most of you probably heard the Mark Sanchez story. It's just bizarre and getting more bizarre.
It's we don't know all the facts, but we do know that it's been upgraded to a felony charge. So initially it was he's in the hospital and he got stabbed, and
in critical condition.
Yeah, and then he was charged with 3 misdemeanors.
Yeah,
and now it's
been
stabbed. Upgraded. Yeah, yeah. So evidently he had some kind of altercation with the truck driver.
I heard he tried to hit the guy and tried to take his truck, and then the guy stabbed him in self-defense, and then there's video of him walking down the road, sidewalk, holding his side.
Multiple abdomen stabs. So not good for Mark Sanchez. So pray for a good recovery, but
the lesson is don't go out late at night, drink too much, and not have a safe way home.
Yeah.
Don't go alone.
There's a lot of things you shouldn't do late at night drunk.
Also true. Also
this could be labeled as one of those things.
One of the, this is definitely one of those
There's a lot
things.
of other things we shouldn't do too.
No. I just thought it was a fascinating story, and the more I read, the more bizarre it gets. Like you said, the first thing I heard, it's like, prayers up for Mark Sanchez, been stabbed in critical condition.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I hope he's okay. And then you realize that he's the one who caused it.
Yeah.
And now we getting some decent trouble for it.
Yeah.
So, around the league, and we don't have a ton of time, but I at least want to touch on the finish to the Cardinals game.
The implosion that was the Cardinals game.
If you didn't see it, you need to go look it up, because if you don't see it with your own eyes, you're not going to believe it happened. Like the worst one, which I still have never understood guys who do this. Guy breaks me, what was it? Probably a 60, 70-yard run up the middle, almost untouched, all the way to the end zone, slows down like at the 5-yard line, puts the ball out and drops the ball before he crosses the line. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Make sure you cross the line. Touchback, ball's turned over. Then there's the Cardinals intercepted. This is the most bizarre play. I'm not sure if there's a more bizarre play I've ever seen. Cardinals, correct me if I'm wrong in how I remember this. Cardinals intercept the ball. The guy stumbles after he intercepts it, falls on the ground untouched. The ball pops loose. So now it's a fumble because nobody touched him.
Yep.
Then two Cardinals, they look at defensive linemen, I think, both go for the ball and punch it out the wrong way.
Yep.
Everybody goes chasing for it. It gets bobbled again and pushed further, ends up in the end zone.
And the Titans jump on it.
The Titans jump on it for a touchdown.
Touchdown. That's exactly what happened. So they get a safety.
Touchback.
Touchback.
They get the ball.
Yeah.
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 So the touchback, instead of a touchdown for the Cardinals, it's a touchback for the Titans.
So they get the ball in the 20.
So they get the ball in the 20 going the other way.
And then the interception. So it was a like a 14-point turnaround.
Yeah.
And the Titans, of course, they're struggling mightily, and like that's the way that they win a football game from this epic meltdown. That as a Browns fan, you watch that and you're like, yeah, that's
wrong color jerseys.
That's
it should be
how
brown
that
and
happens.
orange.
We've seen something like that before. Higgins, diving for the end zone.
That was targeting.
Yeah,
it was 100% targeting.
Helmet to the head, fumbles through the end zone, touchback.
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs get the ball,
and
we lose in
the fumble, the drive.
We've got a litany of stuff that. But I know you've got Browning. He made a heck of a comeback. I saw,
especially after last week when he was
fantasy wise. Ja'Marr Chase had a huge day. 2 touchdowns and went off for like 30-some fantasy points. But Drake May, I watched the game last night.
That was a fun game to watch.
Yeah, the Patriots look good. They who's their coach? I can't think of his name.
It's Mike Vrabel.
Vrabel.
Yeah.
He just has such. I would want to play for a guy like that.
Heck yeah.
You know what I mean?
Him, Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
Those 2 guys in the NFL. Put me on the team.
Yeah.
I don't care who else is on the team. Just put me on the team.
Mm-hmm. And the team, the way the defense plays, the way that
Yep.
Drake May plays, and the way that Vrabel communicated with Drake May. Drake May, made a bad play at the end of the game there before they kicked the field. It wasn't even a bad play. He scrambled and instead of throwing away, tried to run and went out of bounds. And you just see, you could tell, May was upset, and Vrabel's like, "It's okay, it's all good." You didn't lose any yards. It wasn't this critical mistake, but you could tell that there's a relationship there.
Yeah. And
the guys want to play for this guy.
Mm-hmm. And we let him walk and kept Stefanski.
Yeah. So so that was a fun game to watch, and to see Buffalo take a loss. That was kind of.
It's not like Buffalo played that bad. New England they made all the big plays down the stretch.
Yeah.
Like
a funny story. I didn't even tell you this.
Yeah.
So I had the Cardinals in a 3-team parlay on DraftKings. I had the Cardinals, and they were up, and I'm checking the score, seeing where I'm at on my parlay, and I'm up, and I think the amount I could win was like $9.60,
Ooh.
and I could cash
High
out at
roller.
that time for $9.10. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just cashing out. With my luck, I won't get the other 50 cents.
Yeah,
You know, something will happen.
Yeah.
So I cashed out, won $9.10, and then the Cardinals ended up losing. I was like, oh, that's the first good decision I've made on DraftKings ever.
Look at you.
So yeah, and I won
Learning.
$9.
Buying coffee.
Yeah.
Coffee's on you.
Yeah.
No, it's the first time I've watched a full game of Drake May.
Mhm.
You know, I've seen stuff here and there and obviously follow along with stats, and there's something there. Again, it goes back to you know some things when you see it,
Yeah.
even if you can't quantify it.
Yeah.
There's something there.
Yeah.
That kid's he's gonna be all right. Fantasy, how you doing this week?
I'm winning. I'm gonna be 4-1.
4-1.
The opposite of the Browns.
Yeah. Well, I'm on my way to be 3-2. I'll be the top 3-2 because I'm gonna have the second most points in the entire league. I have more points than you.
Ew.
However, actually, I'm up by 88 points right now, and actually, I tallied it. So me and Piper and Drake are all having good weeks, and we're up by a combined over 212 points. We're killing it.
Yeah.
So good week in our household when it comes to fantasy. However, I'm gonna go 3-2, but Omari and Hampton just went on the IR.
Yeah.
So that one hurts. I picked up a running back in his stead, but I also have Aaron Jones on the IR on my bench.
Yeah.
So I've got more wounded on my bench than I have healthy right now. So we'll see. It might not be quite the glowing result next week because Omarian's been carrying me up until this week. But Emeka, looking good.
I'm gonna be 5-1. I play Drake next week, so that's an easy win. Easy dubs.
Well, you know who I had Drake pick up? As soon he'll tell you. As soon as I saw him on the field, I said, Drake, go get him. Because he's been looking for some more points in that flex position.
Yeah.
Darren Waller.
Oh yeah, yeah.
As soon as I saw him on the field, and then Tyreek went down. Now you got Tyreek and Waddle. That's it. Or not Tyreek and Waddle. You got Waller and Waddle. Wow.
Say that 3 times fast.
Waller and Waddle.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's doing better this week. And last thing I wanted to talk about was, what's up, bud? Was Nick Chubb, because you can come here if you want. Is Nick Chubb, because he had another. Say hi.
Hi.
Nice.
Wait, come all the way over here. There you
Hi.
go.
Nicholas Jamal Chubb
Yeah.
with another good week. In a win.
In a win,
against Baltimore.
their offense is looking a lot better. I'll be interested to see what happens when Joe Mixon comes back. But we were talking before we got on, and he's not the Nick Chubb of old, but he's not bad either.
Mm-mm.
I mean, he's still averaging over 4 yards a carry. He's still got a little get up.
Yeah.
He's got a couple breakaway runs where nobody caught him.
Yeah.
Nothing, no 70, 80 yarders, but a couple 30, 40 yard touchdown runs. And I just wish we would have kept him. Like, to me, we talk about just some of those guys and wanting Myles Garrett to be a leader. He was the heart and soul of this Browns team, and when you let him go, you took part of that.
Yeah.
He was the heart and soul of the fan base. When you let him go, you took part of that. And what a nice 1-2 punch to have somebody outside of Judkins that can run the ball, because Ford and Sampson aren't it.
Right. Imagine
And-
giving Quinshawn, 15, 16 touches and Chubb 8, 9, 10 touches.
Right. Right. Instead of putting it all on Judkins.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just,
No, I can see in Judkins, and again, we've had this conversation, but I can see in Judkins what the Browns'
oh yeah,
thought
100%.
process was.
100%.
There's a guy that's
Mhm.
the heir apparent, and I think they made the right call as far as drafting him.
I agree.
But I don't think they made the right call in releasing Nick Chubb.
No. For the money he signed for,
Yeah.
it's, I think it was like $2.5 million.
Yeah.
Like you sign him, you let Ford walk, and you keep him here till he retires. Because by all reports, now again, we aren't Nick Chubb. We don't know Nick Chubb. We've never talked to Nick Chubb. He didn't want to leave. by all reports. And
Well,
if a
the
guy
fan
like
base
that wants,
certainly didn't want him
no,
to leave.
you're right. If a guy like that wants to stay, that guy like that stays. You don't let him walk. But I'm happy for Nick Chubb. I hope he continues to have great success because he will always be a Cleveland Brown, even if he's wearing a different uniform.
Well, and he's gonna, he will be in camp.
I agree. I think so. I think if he can have a few more years of good play,
Yeah. And he
then-
could end up coming back to Cleveland too. There could be a way, I could see that happening where
It's
he
only a
comes
1-year
back.
deal.
So
Mhm. If he proves himself this year, maybe he has interest and there's mutual interest to bring him back.
yeah,
And you get your 1-2 punch. You get, young Kareem Hunt and old Nick Chubb
Yeah.
instead of young Nick Chubb and old Kareem Hunt.
yeah,
He's really not that old. But anything else?
that's it, man.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging out. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, get us out there. Obviously, we're not the biggest show, but our content's pretty good. And, someday we'll even have 3 people here.
Mike, what do you got? You got anything to add?
Nope, not today.
This week.
Not this week. Maybe next week we'll bring Mike back. Mike, when you're editing and uploading this, make sure you listen to it so you feel guilt tripped into joining us next week. But
Steelers week. It's Steelers week.
It is Steelers week, and the Cavs will have some preseason games under their belt. So we'll have a little more to talk about when it comes to the Cavs and hopefully a Buckeyes win over Illinois.
Right.
Till next week, this is 3 and Out, signing off. Peace.